Greetings and welcome to another edition of Montpelier Connection. I'm State Representative Mike Mrowicki from the Windham-4 District of Putney, Dummerston, and Westminster. We're getting ready already for the 2018 legislative session, and as we do, we'll be hearing from different people, issues, and your legislators locally. So now's the time to get in touch with them if you have ideas or questions that you'd like to see addressed in the 2018 session. Today's guest is Representative Val Stuart. Welcome, Val.
Thank you very much for having me, Mike.
Yeah,
really appreciate
thanks for taking the time.
You bet.
And one of the things I'd like to start with is we've just commemorated Veterans Day.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
veterans often are overlooked in this country.
Absolutely.
And I think we're still trying to raise the profile of what veterans need and the sacrifice they give and how sometimes they're forgotten once they come back.
Absolutely.
Veterans Day is a special event now since you have a daughter in the service.
Absolutely.
And she's doing some special work. And she's stationed in this country, or
She's stationed in Germany.
In Germany.
Actually,
Yeah.
her branch is Air Defense Artillery, which is actually the Patriot missile,
Yep.
which protects, Europe. Yeah.
Yep. So she was here in the States not long ago, though, and she has a pet project that you've been helping her with.
She sure does, Mike. She went to American University, and at one point in time, she saw these little flags on the campus, and she asked somebody what that was, and it was all the military veterans that commit suicide every day.
Every day?
Every day of every week.
How many?
Of every year. Between 18 and 21 now, at the time that she saw that exhibit, it was 22 young people and older vets as well a day. So we actually did a march both last year and this year, and we titled it 22 for 24. And we marched from the Brattleboro Union High School to the Putney Food Co-op, which is 11 miles that way and then 11 miles back. And we got a great reception. I mean, a small but incredibly dedicated group, many of whom were veterans. Yeah. She did it because there is a whole national movement, and it's called, people do 22 sit-ups, 22 bike miles, and it's all in either memory of a vet who took their own life or just to build awareness, because Americans, the 1% of those in the military, almost all of them know someone who has taken their own life or who has tried to or thought about it. And the military is now trying to address this, but the public, there's a real, people in the civilian public know little to nothing about the United States military. And one of the, I think, most tragic facts, Mike, is that PTSD and the taking of their own lives occurs mostly in the older generation, between 40 to 59-year-olds, those who served in Vietnam. And so we really need to shed a light on our vets. These are people who do the hardest thing, just protecting our country. And however you feel about the military, and I have very mixed feelings about some aspects of it, but 1% of our nation serves. We need to treat them right. We need to shed a light on this, and we need to give our veterans the support, mental health-wise and otherwise, that they need and deserve. And by the way, only 11% of women serve in the military. So my daughter is incredibly brave. She just, I'm inspired by her every day. And she's a first lieutenant in the United States Army. So she was ROTC. So she's an officer in a man's world.
We're all proud of her.
Thank you.
As you say, rising up in a man's world and trying to open those doors and bang against the glass ceiling and serving our country. So
absolutely. And Mike, I appreciate how you've always supported women in every way through your work. I just want to, as you're thanking our veterans, I want to thank you for always supporting women.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing here. One of the things our own Senator Sanders has quite a reputation for is he has been a stalwart supporter of veterans and veterans issues since he's been in public service.
He has.
And hats off to him for that.
Hats off to him is right.
And more of us can take up that flag.
And interestingly, our daughter, my husband John Mabey and I, our daughter, she worked for Senator
she
Sanders.
did,
She
yeah.
worked in his Washington office
Yeah.
when she was
Oh,
a
great.
junior at American University.
Yeah.
So we know Bernie well, and through my involvement in the strolling of the heifers, he's the only politician that
Yeah.
used to at least be allowed to, and I think still, march in the parade because he's been with the stroll right from the start.
Yep.
So Bernie's super cool, and he's always been ahead of the pack in his value system and what he fights for. And
You bet.
I agree with his values.
Well, we have a legislative session coming up.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah, I'm psyched.
coming up fast already.
Yeah.
Now, how long have you served?
So I'm going on this will be my 8th year, and I'm more excited about it than ever. You know, you get better at it because
we get better. Still learning, though.
always learning, you know,
Yeah.
which is what keeps us, you know, committed and excited because, you know, you don't do this work unless you love to learn and unless you love people.
You bet. Now, you've been on several different committees.
Yeah.
Which committees have you served on, and
So-
which are you on now?
Sure. So my first 2 terms, Mike, I was very pleased to be on education. I think education is one of the most important things that our society does. You know, educating our people and giving them the skills to be successful in life is really something I've always been passionate about. And my children, Ian and Lauren Mabey, they both went to school here, start to finish, public school that is. So I'm a very strong proponent of a strong public education system as being the most important backbone, or one of the most important pieces of infrastructure in our society.
Yeah. It's
So-
backbone of democracy.
Absolutely. And I learned so much on education, and we did great things. I mean, universal pre-K, free lunch, free and reduced price lunch. The reduced price went away because there's a stigma associated with it. And we just did so many great things. We did the Career Center, you know, you can get credits for it, thanks to Ron Staley and a bunch of really fabulous people at the high school. We did the flexible pathways, which we really worked hard on. So we did some really, really monumental, heavy lifts that were have shown to be very successful. So I really enjoyed that. Now I'm on commerce, and I actually wanted to change from education to commerce because I'm a creative person, and I've been both in the business sector, and then ever since I moved to Vermont, I've been dedicated. My heart's passion is, you know, making a difference and changing people's lives. And so I feel like I have a really good mix of knowing that I personally feel, I mean, what's so important right now is for us to do workforce development and help people, you know, figure out what career pathway is appropriate for them. And we're doing a lot of great work on commerce. Actually, you may well know that workforce development was put under our purview very specifically in language and statute last year. So the long and the short of it is I'm really psyched about what we're learning is not every kid needs to saddle themselves with a 4-year college education, which is costly. And as a small state, we can only provide so much assistance financially. We do our best to be generous, but it is hard. So what we are doing is figuring out how, apprenticeships and, 2-year degrees and 4-year degrees, because not every kid is meant to go to college for a 4-year degree, nor do they have to. But what we learned on education, and I'm transferring that over into Commerce and Economic Development Committee now, is that everybody needs some sort of education. The world is too complex now. You have to be able to read a manual. Even if you're a mechanic or a farmer, you have to be, working with the highly technology that's out there. So I love being on commerce, and I asked to be on it. We actually, for the past 2 bienniums, we got about $500,000 worth of money to market the state of Vermont, which is so important because we need to stop the exodus of young people out of the state, keep them in the state to fill the jobs. That there are 4,000 high-tech jobs in this state.
It's one of the challenges we have right now.
Right.
Our unemployment rate
Right.
is under 3 now. And,
Yes.
and some people will say that's just about full employment because there's a segment of the population
Exactly.
that we're probably not going to be able to find jobs for
Yes.
because of various difficulties they have.
Yeah.
And yet our economy wants to expand and we need workers. So where are those workers going to come from?
Exactly. Well, oddly enough, and many people don't know this, but like Champlain College did a survey a couple years back, Mike, and even though there are 4,000 open jobs right now here in Vermont, high tech and those industries.
They're not entry-level jobs.
No,
They're
no.
good-paying jobs, right?
No question, absolutely. And what we found is that the kids at this survey found that the kids at Champlain College did not know that there were jobs in state, so they were leaving. And so now we're trying to do a better job through the different universities that we have and educate kids that you can stay right here, have a great life and lifestyle, and have a good paycheck. The other thing, we learned is there's a geographic mismatch between where the jobs are and where the people qualified for them are. So that's a challenge that we're working on in Commerce. And one of my colleagues on Commerce, a gal from Burlington, Gino Sullivan, and I are working very on CTEs, Career and Technical Education Centers, and workforce development initiatives that help those groups, and also very specifically that help women. Because I'm a very big, having grown up in a broken home with a divorced mother who had to take care of 4 children since the time I was 7 years old. I'm a big believer that women they don't need a handout, but they need a leg up, and they need to be on fair and level playing ground with men, and that hasn't been the case. That's why 21% of women with children live in poverty, or about that number.
Now, as we move ahead, they're talking about a lot of tech jobs.
Right.
That's not the only area of our economy, though, that we're trying to grow. What are some of the other areas that we're trying to encourage?
Emerging technologies, that's still in tech, high-tech manufacturing, that's still in tech. I've gone to 2 great conferences this past month, Mike, or actually last month, October. We're in November now. One was financing the Vermont landscape, and the other one was farm to plate. And both of those were so good. They were both focused on how can we help people who little agribusinesses that, if you want to raise llamas and, make sweaters and that sort of thing, how can the state of Vermont help you do that so that we can keep our landscape green and clean, but you as an individual can do something that you love doing that makes our state so special. And so the financing the Vermont landscape, it was actually held right up there at the Weston Playhouse. And of course, as usual, it was spearheaded by BDCC, and they are just so good. They're the best regional development corp in the state. We're so lucky to have them. And farmers, and if you want to do cheese or microbrewery or what have you, there were presenters who were talking about the various programs in the state of Vermont where you can access from 5,000 to 500,000, USDA agricultural programs that could help you, found a business and, a business that, and the keynote speaker, Michael Schneider, he's the head of forestry in the state of Vermont, he's commissioner.
Good guy.
Great guy. And I asked him what he used to do. He's been in the job for 7 years. And I asked him what he used to do. He said he was a logger. And he made the greatest speech at the end, which I've heard echoed elsewhere as well. And it is that if we want to keep this landscape green and clean, we've got to utilize it in ways that are in keeping with our authenticness as a state, So he said our forests are actually sick right now. And, we need to really make sure that we keep our forests alive and used, and logging, and we need to do value added to logging, and there's things you don't think about, but
Well, value added seems to be the key right across
Absolutely.
the agricultural and market landscape.
No question. No question. If we don't want to be the state that just produces the commodity.
Right.
We want to be the state, and we are.
Our cheeses are winning awards. Our beers, former Governor Shumlin used to tell the story of the beer hunters.
Right,
who come to Vermont.
Oh yeah, Hetty Topper. I have friends like that go up there at all hours to get. Yeah. So beer, wine, cheese. Having been in for a long time, we have these great Taste of Vermont events to showcase Vermont products, so that we all know how to really kind of boost those and pay attention to our local purveyors of all these fabulous things.
And it's always been, I think, one of those Vermont values,
No question.
not just the hard
Yeah.
work, but the ingenuity that Vermonters, as
No
George Aiken said,
question.
it's only Vermonters that could turn weather of 30 below into an industry that lets people ski.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, Mike, I grew up half in Virginia and half in New York. And you know, I rode horses across what is now Reston, Virginia, and I saw Dulles Airport rising. I mean, every Sunday morning we went on a trail ride with my father, who's a veterinarian, you know, a self-made man who went to Cornell on the GI Bill. And I'll tell you, I mean, you know, I really have always gotten it that we have to protect what we love, because I saw what we loved vanish. I mean, Fairfax, Virginia, all around there now, it's just traffic and, you know, I mean,
It's not what we want in Vermont.
it's not what we want in Vermont. So we have a very special state, but the marketing that we're doing is balancing the innovation state, all these innovative products, and you know, from high tech to cheese to beer, and our landscape and you know, agriculture.
Well, segueing from the economy
Yes.
to a clean economy,
Sure.
and how do we balance
Yep.
what we all believe we need to address,
Yeah.
which is climate chaos, really.
Oh yeah, no,
That
it's
our climate is
yeah.
so destructive now and unpredictable. What they've been telling us for the last two
Oh,
decades
yeah.
is coming to pass.
oh yeah. No.
What you're part of the climate caucus
Yeah, yeah.
in Vermont here. What do we
Yeah.
have to look forward to in the next session?
So
What
well,
we can do to help?
yeah, well, I'll tell you, the climate, you know, climate change is really my number one issue. It's one, or at least one of my top three. I mean, there are many important issues, but this is the issue, as Barack Obama said, of our time. And so we actually passed a small, you know, a bill that was part of Omnibus Economic Development Bill this year that is the Climate Economy Business Accelerator, and basically put some money toward really boosting a renewable energy or climate solution kind of business that is growing here in Vermont. What we found is it's best to grow our own businesses, generally speaking, right here, because you know 90% of our economy is 50 people or fewer. And
Small businesses are really the heart of
they're
it.
the heart and soul of us, and the research shows that they tend to stay here and they tend to be good to their employees. So the Council on Rural Development every year has a climate caucus that you know, I go to, and I've always gone to. It's been for 3 years. It's called the Climate Economy Summit. And anyway, I came up with the idea for, you know, why don't we do I have a PR and marketing background from New York, where I worked for 14 years. So what I suggested, and you know, some of the deputy commissioner of the Agency of Community Development at the time, you know, our commerce person, she loved the idea, and that was, why don't we have a conference right here to put Vermont on the map as a climate economy leader, climate, you know, solutions. And so they convened that, and the Council on Rural Development, of course, took that idea and ran with it. And we had 500 people in Burlington. I have the brochure right here, and it's the Catalysts of the Climate Economy, and it was September 6th through 8th. And we had 500 people.
Just from Vermont or from?
From all across the nation.
Yeah.
So my idea to put Vermont on the map as a leader in this sector worked, and I was just thrilled out of my mind. And Paul Costello actually gave me credit at the conference for being the instigator of the idea. He, as usual, took it and ran with it. Paul is just amazing. Council on Rural Development. But anyway, so this, so people were pitching ideas, and there was one idea that won, and you know, a lot of investor money. But it was basically entrepreneurs who want people to invest in their companies, and then, you know, venture capitalists and that sort of thing. At one point, Ted Brady, the Assistant Secretary of Commerce currently, and he's worked for Leahy, and, you know, he's, you know, worked in government for years and years. Fabulous guy. He said, he estimated that at the pitch session, there were like 10 pitches, and people in the room at the culmination of the 3-day conference, He said he figured there was $3 billion net worth in the, and that's what our small, but some of the pitches were from like Boston. I met all these kids from Northeastern University where my son went and graduated from. So very, very exciting. I mean, Vermont is a leader. We created more jobs per capita than any other state in the union in 2014, 17,000 jobs. So, and we continue to lead in that arena. So it's really exciting because there's great potential for our people for us to solve this horrific challenge that we're saddling our grandchildren and children with.
So it is possible to combine an economy
Absolutely.
that can also be clean.
Absolutely. And that is the wave of the future. And even though the United States unfortunately pulled out of the Paris Protocol, it just, many leaders of industry and everything are still, they're following that protocol.
Well, the rest of the world is.
Absolutely.
And just because we have this regime in Washington right now that denies
Absolutely.
climate change,
Yeah, it's
that
pathetic.
denies that our globe is warming, and it's creating
Has
problems.
been for a long time.
We have to fight back in Vermont and do what we can.
Absolutely, and I think we're up for it. I mean, 350.org, I mean, Mother Up. There are some great local organizations. I'm going to one tonight, 350.org. Abby Moncton and, a bunch of others. Daniel Quip and Rebecca Jones, she's a dermatologist. She sees all the health ramifications of climate change and, skin cancer rates going up. We've heard a lot about the health ramifications of a poor climate and therefore the cost to the state. So this is a win-win. We have to dig our way out. We just do.
And we
There's
can't
no
wait
question.
for Washington.
Oh, no. States lead. States have to lead.
Yeah.
We have to, pray that we get through this 4 years as a nation intact. And then, it's, I don't know if you've seen Tom Steyer's, the commercial about, sign the petition to impeach Trump because he is. And just one last thing, speaking of the military, which my daughter is a part of, some of the top leaders in the military say that global climate change is the biggest security risk that
I have been hearing
which
that.
is astounding.
I think it's amazing that they will put that out there, but
they're right
this
out
is a
there.
security risk.
They're right out there.
When we talk about national defense, if we don't protect ourselves against climate change,
No
and
question.
the ramifications of weather chaos, then we're in trouble.
Exactly, and famine and floods and all the erratic weather patterns and everything, we're seeing them every day. Fires in California and floods, Irene in Vermont. I mean, this has been predicted for a long time. Mike, I remember reading, really almost, I hate to date myself, but it was 25 or 30 years ago. It was a teeny tiny article. It was a Union of Concerned Scientists predicting this very thing. I talked to my dad about it, who's, always been kind of one of my, he's very, very, he dismissed it. And just like, but now we all get it. I mean, we do, because, the hen has come home to roost, or whatever that saying is.
Well, our culture has to change.
Yeah, we have to change the way we live.
And I think we're hearing lots of different ways we can do that. It's doable, but we're going to have to change a lot of our behaviors. In Vermont, I believe automobile use is the biggest part of our carbon footprint.
No question.
And so ride sharing,
Absolutely.
we can do better. When I bicycle around, it's interesting that I watch the cars go by because I'm trying to be safe too. And
Absolutely.
what percentage of cars have one person in them?
Absolutely.
I think that's the low-hanging fruit. If we can start just to do more ride sharing.
Absolutely. We always get in that lane when we're going south, down to Hartford.
So we have the new legislative session that's going to be starting the first week of January. Are there bills that you're going to be looking at? I know you've been holding hearings on the Equifax piece.
Absolutely.
Is there going to be legislation coming out of that?
Absolutely. Mike, we've held 4 hearings, and as usual, people just say wonderful things. I mean, we had one in Manchester, one in Barton, one in Springfield, and one last night in Burlington. So we've gotten a wide array of Vermonters' thoughts on how they've been adversely affected by this. And I won't go into all the stories. I'm actually going to write something for the paper and that sort of thing. to share with our local community. And I know our committee is going to share it with the state of Vermont overall, because it's such an egregious breach of security and of Vermonters' trust. So people have told us a lot of stories, and with the stories come ideas for how to really fine-tune legislation that protects people from this, from being breached and from having their private information stolen, and people, basically stealing money from them through credit card theft or identity theft and all sorts of things like that. So, we're definitely going to have a bill on that.
Now, the Attorney General, I think, has some things on his website that people can look at.
Absolutely, and I will. We will post on the end of this video or this segment addresses and numbers and the Attorney General's website and that sort of thing that people can access in order to get that information. But people need to know a couple of really quick tips. But one is file your taxes early, because the later you file them, the more likely you are to be breached. 2, fewer credit cards are better. 3, do always check your credit card, and if you see something or that it is not yours, alert your credit card company immediately, even if they're small, $1 here, $1 there, or small, $5. I had one of those, and those people are usually fishing before they really go in for the kill, and really, so we heard some terrible stories. We would absolutely be doing legislation on that. We were actually ahead of the curve as usual. We have an amazing chair of our committee, Bill Botso. But anyway, I called it dark data, but it's how people can access your data. So we're going to be working on that. We've tried hard on independent contractors. Hopefully this year something will come to fruition. Labor and business will come together so that we can have our committee is generally, a lot of our bills go out of the committee pretty unanimously, but the independent contractors, there is a divide between, people on the right and people on the left, Democrats and Republicans. So it's hard to get, a vote that will withstand floor pressures.
So as we finish up, how do people get a hold of you, Val, if they want to talk to you about something to talk in the next session?
Absolutely. So people are welcome to call my home, and my home number is 802-257-0249. That's best on weekends, during the session, which runs January to May, and throughout the year when we're not in session, or during session, 802-828-2228, and that is the State House number and the Sergeant-at-Arms. Please leave your name and your email, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And do that the same on my home phone. And then I also have a legislative email, and that's vstuart, S-T-U-A-R-T, @leg, which is short for legislature, leg.state.us.vt. So those are the best ways to get in touch with me, and I encourage you. I'm doing something this year. I'm doing a number of bills this year, which really came out of talking with people. So I'm always eager to hear from my constituents. I really appreciate your vote and your support. I've loved serving, and I look forward to continuing to serve with honor and just serve our great state and our great country and do whatever I can to. We didn't get time to talk about everything, but I'm very big on solving the poverty and hunger and homelessness, and I've always been a big advocate for all of those issues, which no one should have to suffer through. So please contact me, and I'll be glad to talk with you and love to hear what you have to say or how I can help on a specific issue.
Sure. Well, thanks.
Oh,
thanks,
thank
Val.
you,
Thanks
Mike.
for taking the time. And thanks to the people here at BCTV again. They do a great job in helping us connect with you, the voters, and the constituents so we can serve you better. So until next time, this is Mike Mrowicki. Bye-bye now.